What's up, everyone? Welcome to the 23rd episode of the Boundless Business Podcast. Today, we have a very special podcast. So, it's going to be a visual podcast. So, if you have a second, jump on our YouTube channel and just look up how to convert lost website traffic into clients. But this is a presentation that I've been giving about what is a pixel, how you can use it, and more importantly, how you can take the data from pixels and turn it into paying clients. So, we're just going to go ahead. I will be explaining the majority of it in this podcast. But if you look for a visual, the downloadable doc will be on our website as well as the visual will be on YouTube. So we'll just go ahead and get started. So really the current problem with analytics tools, Google, Facebook, it doesn't really matter what analytics tools you're talking about. What the problem is when a user gets sent to a website from organic or paid or wherever, about 3% of them will convert. And every industry is a little different. B to C tends to be a little higher than B to B, but those 3% of people convert. The problem is the 97 that don't convert are still most likely in the buying process of some sort, but because we have no idea who they are or where they're going, there's no way of us to make any real significant impact on them. And the problem with tools like Facebook and Google is you don't own the data. So if you want to retarget someone from a Facebook pixel, you have to use the Facebook product versus the Google as well. You have to use the Google product. That's why actually being able to own your data is so valuable. So you don't control the black box of Google, but there's still this disconnect between the 97% of people that you've driven to the website that you just can't make any actionable insights into. So the problem is because the data that you get is not specific, it's not actually actionable. So
So
how
Nika,
what
what do you mean by not specific? Can you clarify that a little bit?
Yeah, so what do you mean by not specific? It's not, you don't know the first name, last name, geography, socials, email, phone number. There's no way that you can say, like, this person that I see landed on my website, they clicked on my blog, they went to my contact page. You can see that in Google Analytics. You can see how they flow through, but you don't know who that person is. And that's the problem. Because you don't know who that specific person is, there's no way that you can re engage them with an actionable message. So that's what I mean by not specific. Like you don't know that it's Janice from the Midwest who was clicking on a video about, how to get your teeth, less yellow or whatever that is. Like you don't know where she came. You know where she came from, and you know that that person left, but you don't know anything in between them coming to your website and leaving. So, how pixels actually work and how they actually capture data to turn into lost leads, they sit in between the Facebook pixels, the websites, and the end user. So basically, you now have a pipeline that sits in between and works for you. And about 10 to 40% of the time, these pixels can know exactly who that person is and their behavior. They're not up to 100% yet. Otherwise, we would be making a lot more money, to be honest. But the nice thing is, that's still a vast improvement. The fact that you now have upwards of at least 7% extra people, upwards of 37%, that you can now, like I said, take those actionable insights. And by actionable, again, you can email them if you have their email. You can connect with them on social media. You can retarget them with ads. Let's say that for acquisition, you spend a lot of money on Facebook and Google, but you can now take that data and send that retargeting budget on TikTok or on Reddit or on direct mail. You control the data and thus you can control the platform that you can advertise on or not advertise on. That's the best thing is you get to dictate where the best deals are. So in a sense, a pixel gives you access to your data. And that's the best part. You're sitting in between, really, like you're taking away that in between mechanism by owning the data. So what is a pixel? How does it work? And how does it identify a exact person? So most pixels work like this. There is an IP that each one of us has, whether you're listening on a device or through a laptop or some sort. It doesn't really matter. Every device, every person has an ID, right? What pixels traditionally do is they reverse look up those IPs, and that's how they're able to get the name, email, location, social media in a database. Now, our pixel does two things. One, it looks up the ID, reverses it, but it also looks up the fingerprint of the actual device itself. So every device has a specific fingerprint. So now we does two-part authentication into our database. And that's how we're able to say, okay, this person pinged our website. We then looked them up in the database automatically, and we pulled all this information in: the first name, last name, email, phone number, social media, all these mechanisms we were actually able to pull in from a static database to a dynamic user. But the problem is, if you run ads, there's a lot of noise out there. Even if you don't run ads, there's a lot of people coming to your website that aren't great fits because they might be competition, might be people looking for jobs, whatever that is. You need to figure out how to score these leads. And the best way to do that is figure out, where do the most profitable people come from? What do they do on the website? And how can I get more of those? So for instance, something like an e-commerce brand, they might care about the number of page visits if they go to a specific part of the website, maybe time on website, maybe location. They will figure out what matters to them. And because you own the data, you can run your own data analytics to see who's the most profitable. But in this case, let's say that specific page is visited and the geolocation is what matters to you to be able to score a specific lead. What you then want to do is separate your traffic. You want to say, okay, these are warmer leads and these are colder leads. That's how you're able to really democratize the data. Because if you just get a ton of stuff and now you plug it into campaigns and it doesn't do well, you could blame the data. But in reality, it's because the data wasn't scored that really made it useless. Okay. So let's say in this ability, the warmer and colder traffic is separated. Now you are probably thinking, okay, great, Nico. I paid a ton of money to get this data, or I didn't pay a ton of money working with us. We'll plug there. But what do I even do with it? Because the problem with a lot of data providers, and you can buy a list of hundreds of thousands of rows of people. The problem is, if you don't have a way to take that information and turn it into business, then it's just kind of a wasted asset. So what we're going to do now is look at how to actually turn these lost leads into booked calls or sales. So for instance, there's three mechanisms that you can use. One, direct ads. Two, outbound. Or three, a combination of both of the ads and the outbound. What you want to do is you want to figure out, what is the message that you're going to communicate to them? What's the opener? What's the reason for contacting? And what's a very clear call to action that will actually make them do the thing that you want them to do? Whether it's book a call, respond to a message, you want them to achieve something specific. And that's what your message is all about. So let's say that you're going to do ads. Okay. Traditionally, if someone comes to your contact form, you can use a Google Facebook pixel, in this case, a Facebook pixel or Instagram pixel, and you can know exactly who that person kind of is and run an ad to it. But with this extra data, since we know they ended up on the contact form, we can run hyper custom ads through custom audiences to that person. So you could separate it out by, okay, everyone that ended in this service page, right? And they get a specific ad. Everyone who goes into our contact form, they get a specific ad. You're actually able to hyper custom the outreach that you do, even in an ad form, which means you're focusing more of your money on warmer leads. Now, this is my bread and butter: outbound, 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 outbound. This now makes it very simple for us to say, okay, if a user ended on a contact form, for instance, you can directly email the person with a very simple message and get straight to the point. Same with the services one. Let's say that you do some ad, you do Instagram ads. If you know that they ended on an Instagram ad page, you can honestly say, hey, Joe, are you interested in Instagram ads? Or whatever the mechanism is that you offer, you can get hyper custom because you know who they are and where they went. Now you're able to personalize at scale, that either through your individual teams or by using automation, which takes us to both, right? The vast majority of people are using some type of outbound source and ad traffic. What you want to do, and I'll zoom into these in a second, is you want to actually build a mechanism, a machine that takes the traffic, automatically segments them, and then turns those segmented data pieces into booked calls. So let's go into depth on what warmer engagements could look like. Let's say that you got a lead and you know exactly who they are. And based on how you scored them, you know that they are part of a higher tier of lead that converts a lot better. You can take that person, put them in a custom retargeting process, either through Facebook retargeting or Google retargeting, send them emails that are custom, or give them voice drops or calls. Okay. Now, colder ones, you can send directly into automation, into an email drip campaign, LinkedIn drip campaign, automatic ringless calls. But the whole point is whether you send warmer traffic to a team or another more specific automation, or you just automate the whole process, you control this data. This is data that would have gone unnoticed, not relevant, and they would have honestly turned all the money that you spent into nothing. We're recapturing the data and actually turning it into a valuable resource. So, how do you actually grow the right traffic so that you can increase the lead quality and number of leads that you're getting from your website? Organic mechanisms, you have SEO, social content, webinars like this, and podcasts, outbound mechanisms, Google My Business, directory, networking. There's so many ways that you can organically drive traffic to your website. On the paid side, you can run paid ads, paid search ads, social, sponsor events, sponsor newsletters. There's many ways to increase traffic, but it's all about the quality of the person that you send, because you can't, get good things out if you put bad things in. So you probably have a ton of questions. Most notably, is this legal? The answer is yes. All we're doing is recapturing data that's already coming to your website. How you work that data, there is different things. You can't call people who are on do not call list, for instance. So you have to check with every lead provider that you have, or if you use our technology, just let me know, Nico at getboundlessmedia.com. But you have to check if the legality behind it. The answer is most likely it can be it is legal, but it can often skew in that gray area. So you have to be very, very careful. Does it actually work? The answer is yes. We actually got off a call yesterday with someone that's been doing this for a month. We did 364 leads and sent that over to them. They ended up turning those upwards of 24 booked calls. That's almost a 7% book rate, which is unheard of. In the outbound world, I'd be happy if someone responds positively for every 50, 100 messages and jumps on a call for every 250 messages. These are 24 calls from 364 outbound leads that were then put into a sequence. So the answer is yes, it does work. You do have to have some traffic for it, and you do have to have some tenacity to actually take the data and run with it. But even if you're doing outbound or ads or a combination of both, it can work. How much does it cost? Prices range. There are different data solutions for every person. So maybe you just need the first name, last name, email, phone number, and those type of mechanisms. That's going to cost you a lot less if you want their credit score or their home address and these other data pieces. But prices do range from a couple bucks a lead to, we have unlimited packages. It really just matters on how much data you need and how you're going to use that. Should I automate the whole process? Maybe. For the warm leads, I would recommend not. Take those warm leads and actually manually use them. Send them to your sales team to work. Send them to your development team, your business development team to actually take them and see if you can schedule calls. In the example I said earlier, they just automated the whole process. So they didn't even touch the leads until they wanted to book a call. So the answer is you can automate it. I recommend doing a combination of both, taking the warm data and doing more personalized outbound or ads, and then same with the colder ones. So can you or should you automate it? Maybe. Every case is unique. How can I get more leads? We talked about it earlier. There's either the organic or paid acquisition channels. So you have to figure out where's your budget and how fast do you need these to ramp up. SEO is awesome and tends to be cheaper over time, but it does take 3, 6, 12 months to really ramp up. Where can I find my current website traffic? There's awesome tools like SpyFu and SEMrush that you can actually see how much traffic you're currently getting, or tools like Google Analytics that will show you exactly what type of audience will come to your website, how many, and how frequently. So if you have any questions about the pixels, how they work, Nico at getboundlessmedia.com is the best place to reach me. Happy to be of value and see if this is a solution that could potentially help you scale and turn that wasted data, people who are never going to be able to retarget, and actually turn them into booked calls. So, team, I know I said 7 minutes. I can see in the timer like it went a little longer than 7 minutes. But what questions do we have throughout the whole presentation?
I did actually write some questions down during
Great.
your presentation. So my first question, speaking of website traffic and
Yeah.
figuring out how much traffic you already have, what are you kind of looking for in terms of numbers for this to work?
Yeah, so usually we look for anyone that has more than 1,000 unique visitors coming to their website. It can be as low as 500, but I don't recommend that for anyone under. Because really, if you think about this, right, if you get 500 people, let's say that based on the numbers I said earlier, you capture 10% of them, that means you're relatively only getting 50 leads a month, which means you're getting one, maybe two leads a day. Now, what if you got 2 to 4 with 1,000? What if you got 4 to 8 for 2,000? Like, then it just becomes much more beneficial if you have more traffic. But it doesn't mean that if you have little traffic, that it doesn't turn into something valuable.
It definitely also depends too on like the lifetime value of your potential client. So if you're only getting 50, but if the lifetime value of your average client is really high, 50 is probably enough.
Yeah.
It really just depends. Like if your lifetime value of the client is like $10, it probably doesn't make that much sense.
Yeah. And really, and again, it depends on your numbers, right? If for 50 leads that come in, you can turn them into 5 calls and close one deal, then hell yeah, it might be a fantastic mechanism. But let's say it takes you 100 leads to get one person on the call. That means for every 2 months of running this, you might get one person on the call. So it really just depends on your numbers as well. The best thing you can do is let me know, and I'm happy to see and show you some case studies and where mechanisms can work. But the next one is do a test, and we currently offer a 7-day free trial. So if you want to get started with no cost and see before you spend a ton of money or time, we're happy to help you there as well.
Awesome. My next question was, can this whole process kind of help you optimize your website to make it work better? Like throughout getting data, can you use that to optimize your website to help you drive more leads?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Larissa, take it.
So a big reason that let's say a lot of people's websites might be slow is let's say they have, I don't know, 500 pages on their website across. They might have a ton of blogs, they might have a ton of resources, a ton of random website pages, right? That slows your website down. Like the more stuff you have on your website, the slower your website's going to be. So one really useful use case of this data is even being able to go and see like what pages is everyone going to, as well as what page paths are they going to. So like, do they start on the home page and do they end on the contact page, right? Like that's important to know. But if you have, let's say, 95% of your traffic coming through 15 pages of your 500 pages, you could probably delete a good like 90% of those website pages and lose no traffic, but increase your speed. So it can have other impacts as well if like you're looking to optimize your site. It gives you insights in terms of like what pages specifically get the most views, how long are people on them, what kind of people are on them as well. Like that's a big thing. So if you have, let's say, a landing page that you're funneling people to, if you're not sending the right people there, of course it's not going to work, right? And if you're just sitting there being like, oh, why is nobody converting? And then you go and you can see like, oh, nobody's converting because I wrote this page specifically geared towards, let's say, CEOs of companies. And the only people I'm getting to it are CTOs, let's just say, for example.
Yeah.
Your audience isn't, your actual audience is not the same as your assumed audience, but you don't know that unless you know who they are.
Yeah, and to Larissa's point, like that's important. Like you might be seeing that you're getting 100,000 people to your website, but if it's 100,000 people with the wrong niche or wrong persona or have no buying capability, like that traffic doesn't matter. And that's a hard thing about Google Analytics. Like you just don't know who's coming to your website. Like you just don't. On the ad side, it's a little better, but like organically, you just don't know who's coming to your site. We have people come to your site where we're like, why would you even want to learn about marketing? I think we're really cool. I'm glad you're here and consuming our data, but like, why? Right. So we just don't know the And we didn't know that. We were just happy with that. Our numbers were increasing. But when we were able to actually look at who's coming to it, we're like, oh, okay, we can turn this down a little bit. We can increase this. And that's how we're actually able to get better quality without having to sacrifice a ton of time guessing or brainstorming.
My last question, how quick is this process? Like how quickly can someone set this up and start using it to improve their campaigns and get more folks called?
Me as fast as 48 hours. As soon, it just depends on how much traffic you have to your data, but within 7 days you're going to see something. Some people it's in the first day, some takes 3 days. It just depends on how who's coming to your site, and if we can figure them out who they are and then turn them into a call of some sort. So great question.
Yeah,
It
the
just really
setup
depends.
process is very quick though. Setup process only takes, between 5 and 15 minutes.
It's probably the closest thing to actually like getting ROI. Like it's just faster than anything that we've ever seen, especially the having like data now behind it, where I'm like, wow, 364 into 24 calls, like that's just unmatched, right? Like I just haven't seen that from a campaign in outbound land before. So it's definitely up to the traffic and traffic source and quality, but you can see results pretty quick.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is there anything else you guys wanted to talk about relating to the pixel or anything else?
No, just email me at nico@boundlessmedia.com. Happy to show you this or get you settled for a free trial, and we'll change the world one visitor at a time. So awesome.
Yeah, I don't have any other.
Awesome. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Justine, Larissa, you guys are amazing. This has been one hell of a conversation. So super fun, and we will keep the conversation going. And yeah, if you have any questions, nico@boundlessmedia.com, and have a good day. Cheers.